Sunday to all my followers out there. This is another live in a series of lives, helping people step into their magic, helping people understand what that even might mean for them, because so many people have asked. People are always saying, oh, your magic, step into your magic. What does that mean? Was fortunate enough to come from a family where on both sides spiritual gifts were present, were claimed, kept closeted within our family, but celebrated. An interesting factor in that was my mother's side of the family and my father's side of the family both exhibited these gifts. My father always attributed it to Scottish blood. He always said it came from our Scottish ancestors who have the gift. And within my family, it was seriously believed. Hello, Michelle in England. Thanks for joining. It was seriously believed that this was hereditary and it was genetic, that some people had a genetic propensity towards having psychic gifts. And the fact that they even checked each child for the mark to see if they had the gifts or not reinforced this very much. And it was interesting because when I took my firstborn son down to visit, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and my mother's sister, my aunt, were there. And the first thing my grandmother did was to look to see if he had the mark. And then my aunt quietly carried him off to spend some one-on-one time out of prying eyes with him, really making this connection. And when she returned, she was very excited. He has the mark. Look, he has the mark. And so this was something that even when my grandchildren were born, do they have the mark? I couldn't help it. I was echoing generations there. I just think that it's very interesting that whatever this hereditary mark kids are born with in our family is connected in the consciousness of our family to that child having a propensity towards spiritual gifts and intuitive connections and that type of thing. Now, where this gets twisted and controversial is within a lot of circles with witchcraft or spirituality. When you're talking about psychic gifts and such, there are people who want to limit the circle. And they say, unless you come from a certain bloodline, unless you are part of a hereditary witchcraft tradition, you probably don't have these gifts. Not true. In my experience, we all have gifts. I don't know what it would have been like if I had been born in a different family that didn't overtly claim these things, that didn't overtly look for the mark on the children and grandchildren, and affirm to that child that they were special. And if they weren't trained up, I would have had probably a very different life if I had been adopted out. However, in my experience, even if you didn't have that when you were raised, your gifts can awaken and develop. Sometimes people have events in their lives that trigger an awakening. Some people are stronger in certain gifts than in others. And so they start seeing those gifts emerge first. But I can tell you from personal experience, once you start working with your spiritual gifts, it's like opening up all the windows. That light is going to come pouring in and things are going to get illuminated. In the last 10 years, I was discovering gifts and discovering techniques I had never known about before. So it's been a growth experience. It's been a real growth journey. And sometimes people who were raised in these hereditary witchcraft, scenario environments, it can also be a little bit limiting because my mother would hear about certain things. One of them was people who could really see, say, a spirit and think it looked to them like it was flesh, like it was a person in front of them. And my mom would say, they're making that up. That's not true. If you could do that, someone in our family would have had that happen to them. And so it really became this idea that If we didn't experience that gift, if we hadn't had that experience, must not be possible. And I found out that's simply not true. So there are drawbacks and limitations that if you were not born into that type of scenario, you're more open to exploring what your special gifts might be. You're more open to looking outside your spiritual tradition, your community, to see what's out there. I think maybe in some ways you're probably more willing to even learn. So do not be held back by some idea if you haven't experienced your gift. You don't know what your gift is, that you haven't had that kind of support, that you can't step into your spiritual gifts, your magic, or be a witch, okay? There are ways to develop those gifts. One of the ways is actually to make it known to the universe. Light a candle, call out to ancestors and spirit guides that you want to awaken those gifts, that you're open to making those connections. Light a candle, put out some flowers, maybe make a nice portal with a bowl of clear water. Then some quiet time for yourself. And one of the easiest ways to start aligning yourself with that type of vibration is crystals. I've talked about crystals vibrating in ways. Hi, Christine. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do, Christine, to encourage people. That was Christine Esser, Pink House Poet, and I met her at a Sedona retreat. What an amazing person. And I wish I could acknowledge everybody, but these little names are spinning through. Aligning yourself by using crystals. Amethyst is relatively inexpensive, and unless you're looking for some kind of fancy high-grade amethyst, these are from a flat I got of inexpensive amethyst where they're a little bit broken off on the bottom, and I love the vibration and the energy. They will help shift your vibration if you quietly meditate with them. You need to make the time and the space to do that, though, and sometimes that's a little bit challenging. The other thing are your plant allies. I have a little mini cauldron here. I have them all over my house. And I also have my abalone shell here. And both of them have remnants. I love to burn mugwort in particular because it also has a vibration that makes it easy to open that door and to kind of cross over, or to allow energies to cross over into your environment and open yourself up. Those are two wonderful things that you can use. If you're afraid of opening up, which I think maybe the Hollywood movies and the Western spiritual ethos that the Christian church has kind of taught us, we hear a lot of scary stories. If you're in good faith, if you're in high vibration, what I tend to say is, I invite in my beloved dead. So these are people that you knew and loved in life and honored, ancestors that maybe are on a higher kind of spiritual plane. You can also define when they can contact you, what kinds of signs. I ward my bedroom. Do not come into my sleep. Do not come into my dreams. I had enough of that as a child. I found it very difficult to control. Don't do that. Occasionally, someone I care about very much can breach that because we're on the same wavelength. But in general, it doesn't happen. So you can also make sure you have a high vibration around you. You can cleanse your area first. You can ward it with a little bit of salt. But it shouldn't be a negative experience unless you're projecting fear. If you're going to project fear and apprehension, don't do it. Just don't do it. Find other ways to awaken your spirituality, okay? But the main point of this little talk, everybody is spiritually connected. We all carry that light, that glimmer. There's advantages and disadvantages to having been raised in the craft or being raised by people who believe strongly in spiritual gifts. There might be some kind of hereditary component because you may find you have some gifts that are stronger and other gifts maybe never quite come to you. What the hey? So please don't doubt yourself. We don't need to be the sisters in Charmed. I think we've as older people watched a lot of those kinds of movies. We can open ourselves up to our gifts. Crystal vibrations will help you. Plant allies can also help you. None of them can give you faith in yourself and a willingness to be open and to take the time to sit, to meditate, to talk to spirit guides, to talk to ancestors, to keep an eye out for synchronicities that may come your way and other signs, and journal them, because you're telling the universe, I'm watching, I'm trying to make sense of this, bring it on. Okay, so happy Sunday, many blessings. Please, if you find this helpful, like, comment, let me know what I can discuss that will be helpful to you. This topic was one that somebody suggested, and I thought, ooh, we better get that one out fast. So, and if you want to watch YouTubes on my video, I have a ton of YouTubes around awakening spirit, opening third eye, tons of stuff on there. And if you do watch those videos and you like them, please subscribe, but like the video and leave me a comment so that I know what you like, what you're looking for, because I really want to help you awaken that spiritual energy. Many blessings. Have a lovely rest of your little bit of weekend left.